Welcome to AI Daily Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Now, for this session, we're trying something, well, a bit different. This entire deep dive into today's top AI news stories, and that's for Saturday, April 19th, 2025,
Uh-huh.
was actually researched and generated entirely by AI.
Interesting approach. So AI is setting our agenda today.
Exactly. Our AI counterparts have sifted through the latest developments to flag the five most significant ones. The goal really is just to pull out the key info, give you a quick but hopefully thorough look at what's happening in AI right now.
Okay, sounds good. So what did the AI pick out for us?
Right, so on the list today, we've got Google Gemini's new automation feature. They're calling it Scheduled Actions. Then AI being used for psychological profiling in football.
Oh, okay.
Also, Google again with a pretty interesting project on dolphin communication, Dolphin Gemma.
No dolphins.
Yeah. Then there's the ongoing debate about AI's impact on, human intelligence.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Always
Yeah.
relevant.
And finally, Palmer Luckey's perspective on AI weaponry and where the U.S. stands.
Quite a mix. From task scheduling to dolphins to defense. AI really is everywhere now.
It certainly seems that way. Let's dive in then. First up, Google Gemini and scheduled actions. What's the deal here? Sounds like task automation.
Yeah, that's the gist. It looks like a feature that would let you set up Gemini to perform tasks automatically at some point in the future. Sort of like, well, like ChatGPT's scheduled tasks feature, perhaps.
Okay, so automating AI interactions. The report mentioned things like pause and resume controls being found in the code.
Exactly. That suggests users would have some, direct control over these automated actions once they're set up, which is probably a good thing.
Makes sense. And this comes alongside Google pushing out different versions of Gemini pretty quickly, right? Like 2.5 Pro expanded access and the new, faster 2.5 Flash.
That's right. They're definitely moving fast, rolling out these different models and capabilities. It shows a big push to get Gemini integrated and used more widely.
But does that speed raise any flags? I think there was mention of safety documentation timing.
Well, yeah, some observers, like Kevin Bankston and Thomas Woodside apparently, noted that the detailed safety information for Gemini 2.5 Pro maybe came out a bit after the model itself was launched or expanded.
Okay.
And Sandra Watcher drew an analogy, suggesting that, in other industries, you'd ideally want safety measures thoroughly documented before a wide release. It sparks that conversation about balancing speed and safety in AI development.
Right, the classic innovation versus caution dilemma. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Football. AI psychological profiling. How does that even work?
It's pretty interesting, actually. The idea is to use AI to analyze video footage, tons of it, looking for subtle behavioral cues, not just how well they play, but things that might indicate, say, emotional control under pressure or leadership potential.
So looking at body language, how they interact with teammates, opponents, referees, that kind of stuff.
Precisely. A company called Inside Out Analytics, co-founded by Ya Amankwa and Professor Gear Jourdain, is pioneering this. They've reportedly run trials with some big clubs like Bayern Munich and Brighton.
And the goal is what? To help with scouting, player development.
Both, potentially. Giving clubs another layer of insight beyond traditional scouting reports and performance metrics. And the long-term vision seems to be moving towards a more automated AI-driven analysis.
Fascinating. Using AI to quantify the intangibles? Okay. From football pitches to the ocean. Google's Dolphin Gemma. Tell me more. Communicating with dolphins using AI.
Yeah, it sounds wild, doesn't it? But that's the project. Dolphin Gemma is an AI system apparently built using similar tech to Gemini, around 400 million parameters mentioned.
Okay.
And it works with something called the chat system. That's cetacean hearing augmentation telemetry. They're using modified Google Pixel phones for this.
Modified pixels for dolphins.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the goal? Are they trying to have actual conversations?
Not quite yet, it seems. The initial aim is more basic. They want to establish a sort of shared vocabulary using artificial whistles generated by the system.
Artificial whistle?
Yeah, linking specific whistle sounds to certain objects relevant to dolphins, like, say, seagrass or sargassum. The hope is the dolphins might learn to associate these sounds and maybe even use them.
So it's like teaching them a few key words.
Kind of. It's a very early step, but potentially groundbreaking if it works. Think about understanding interspecies communication, marine conservation, but it also raises ethical questions, of course.
Absolutely. A lot to unpack there. Now, moving to something maybe a bit more unsettling. This idea that AI might be impacting human intelligence. Is there actual evidence for this, or is it still mostly speculation?
It's a really active area of discussion and research. There are prominent figures like Robert Sternberg who've definitely voiced concerns, worries that relying too much on AI for thinking tasks could affect our own creativity, critical analysis, that sort of thing.
Cognitive offloading idea.
Exactly. And there are some broader trends people point to, like studies showing IQ scores might be stagnating or even slightly reversing in some developed nations after decades of rising, the Flynn effect reversing. Plus reported declines in specific skills in some areas.
But can we directly link that to AI use? Or are there other factors?
That's the tricky part. Elizabeth Twerk points out it's complex. Many factors influence intelligence trends. But some specific studies do suggest potential negative impacts from AI reliance. Michael Gerlich's research, for example, or studies from Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon, hint at possible erosion of critical thinking or memory skills. There are also concerns about things like reduced diversity of ideas if everyone starts relying on the same AI outputs, or becoming more susceptible to AI-generated misinformation. A study in Science Advances touched on that.
So the takeaway is, be mindful, don't outsource all our thinking.
Pretty much. Experts seem to emphasize finding a balance. Using AI as a tool, definitely, but also consciously nurturing those uniquely human skills. Critical thought, deep creativity, complex problem solving.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, the fifth piece of news our AI picked up. Palmer Luckey and AI weapons. What's his argument?
His stance is pretty direct. He argues that the U.S. is effectively already in the era of AI-powered weaponry and needs to fully commit to advancing it.
Already in it. How so?
He points to existing systems, like autonomous anti-missile defenses, things that identify and react to threats faster than a human could. He sees these as clear examples of AI already playing a crucial role in defense.
Okay.
And his core argument is that this is an inevitable development and the U.S. needs to stay ahead, particularly considering potential adversaries like China, to maintain military superiority.
So it's a national security imperative in his view, despite the ethical concerns others raise.
Exactly. He acknowledges the concerns exist, but frames it as a necessity. Critics, of course, raise serious points about accountability, escalation, the potential for an uncontrollable AI arms race, all those difficult questions. But Luckey's perspective focuses on the perceived strategic need.
Right. A very clear, if controversial, position. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the 5 stories the AI brought us today.
Sure.
First, Google Gemini is developing scheduled actions for automating tasks, maybe integrating with other Google stuff down the line. Though some discussion around the speed of the rollout and safety docs for 2.5 Pro.
Got it.
Second, AI is being used in elite football for psychological profiling, analyzing video for traits like leadership, with a push towards automation.
Right, the inside-out analytics work.
Third, Google's Dolphin Gemma project using AI and modified phones to try and establish some basic whistle-based communication with dolphins.
The interspecies communication angle.
Fourth, the ongoing research and debate around AI potentially impacting human intelligence through cognitive offloading, with concerns about critical thinking and creativity.
The balance question.
And fifth, Palmer Luckey's argument that the U.S. is already using AI weapons and must accelerate development to maintain military advantage despite ethical debates.
Yep, the defense perspective.
Those 5 really do paint a picture of just how broad AI's reach is becoming, huh?
Absolutely. From everyday tasks to the fundamental nature of intelligence and even global security. It's touching everything.
It really is. Which kind of leads to our final thought for everyone listening. As AI keeps weaving itself more tightly into our lives, scheduling tasks, analyzing athletes, maybe talking to other species, shaping defense, what do you see as the biggest changes coming? How might this reshape our routines, our idea of intelligence, maybe even our place in the world? Something to chew on.
Definitely a lot to think about there.
Indeed. Well, thanks for taking this AI-guided deep dive with us today.